For the sake of this demo, we're going to highlight a scenario where you essentially have a blog posting app. So I'm picking an open source starter template. You can check out, and I'll leave the kudos to the original creator of the repository. It's available under MIT. So I essentially extended that and integrated SUBTOPIA into turning this into essentially a D app. This is how it looks like by default. So this just stock template. You have your pages. You can post content here. You can expand it, and it's pretty much like a regular kind of like medium styled blog. And this is what we are going to use as a base. So now assume that you have a scenario when you want to turn this into a gated access. So certain posts, for example, you would want to monetize them, and they're only available after you subscribe to the blog post as of the creator, essentially. So if we go to SUBTOPIA's website, and I'll use testnet for the sake of the demo, because people who potentially will fork it might prefer trying it out for free on the testnet instance first. And once again, this platform was launched on mainnet in the end of November. We passed an audit with an Australian auditing firm called Entersoft. And let's pretty much start with the entry point to the platform itself first. So I'm already authenticated, but let me potentially re-log in to show you a scenario that we also support email-based authentication, so you don't necessarily need to have an Algorand wallet if you want to use it. But obviously, there is a lot of more, I guess, optimizations in the current state for actually the app builders who already have platforms available on Algorand, or building something with AlgoKit, for example. So let's pick Pera for the sake of a demo. I'm currently on Pera testnet, so I will pick some available wallet for that. So let's see how much balance we have. And all right, so the first thing you see when you go on the main page is essentially the platform offers you to create a subscription contract. When I say contract, I'm applying a smart contract that is deployed for you for a fixed fee that we currently charge in USD. So we have our own Oracle that always ensures that it charges you the current amount in Algo, but equivalent to the current price of Algo, basically. I would say if you're a developer, essentially, obviously, the most important part would be to initially start with the documentation, which I wanted to highlight first because it, I think, gives a good overview of all the features currently available for the existing set of contracts, which we call them token-based contracts because they basically mint an NFT on Algorand after you perform a subscription. You could think of this as kind of like minting an NFT, for example, right? When you get an NFT associated with it, it's an ASA that is linked to your wallet mostly for like vanity reasons, right? You can't sell them or transfer them. You can put it in auction, but very similar principle here. So the ASA is there for mostly vanity reasons, but the contract that manages that ASA is the main logic of the platform that allows you to perform subscriptions through it. It allows you to make lookups. If you want to check if, say, a wallet address on Algorand is a subscriber to a platform, pick any name for it, basically, then you essentially just refer to a set of options. You can either use the API. There's a public API available that you could just use from the clients and make invocations to check if there is a particular subscriber on a certain platform. It's a very simple API in the current state, and would be interested to hear some suggestions in case there are some interesting scenarios. You can join the official Discord if you would like to take a look into our community, or if you need assistance with the integration. Obviously, there is power users as well. If you like to make a call from your own Algorand contract into the SUBTOPIA contract to perform the check whether the particular wallet is a subscriber or not, you can use ABIs. Currently, we provide on-demand help with that, but there will be an open sort of client library that is exposed, and you will be able to interact with it by just installing it as a package. And then there is the primary option, I would say, which is a JavaScript SDK that's available pretty much for a large variety of front-end clients. And the main goal here is to provide a super simple set of abstractions that would allow you to essentially build your own UI for anything you would like around management of the subscriptions. And I would say one other important bit to note is that everything that you see here, basically, and all capabilities that Subtopia currently provides, as I said, is entirely on-chain. If you want a bit more technical details, you could see the existing architecture, basically. It's a set of different contracts that are orchestrating the deployments, but the point is that in the current iteration, most of the interactions is essentially just calls to Algorand ledger. So we don't currently have any backend or any databases associated, but obviously those will come along as more advanced features will start rolling out, basically. So yeah, pretty much that's a quick, I would say, recap of what's available in terms of the documentation. We also have on-ramp integrated from Pera on-ramp if you want to purchase algos with, say, your credit card and to pop your account balance. And as I said, there's an ability to log in with email that doesn't require anything to do with managing wallet clients. And for, I would say, advanced scenarios, you can also check out an examples folder. There's a separate examples repository highlighting a bunch of different projects with Subtopia pre-integrated. And we also have a official AlgoKit template for the Subtopia that you can instantiate through AlgoKit, and also have a fully customizable template scaffolded for you, so you can start building your D app essentially with monetization already in place. So going back to the platform, let's deploy a quick product. So I will go back to the testnet. And let's call this application for the blog something like blog page, for the sake of, rhyming with the name of the show. So I'll call it blog page. And if you noticed, I click on a time-based contract. So a time-based subscription contract basically would allow you to specify different aspects around the expiration of the subscription. So let's call it, I don't know, something like Pro. Unit name. So this basically contains an extra reference. If you're obviously a developer on Algorand, you're already familiar with that. But there's going to be some additional UX improvements to maybe simplify the terminology here. But unit name is essentially the name that will be assigned to a subscription after it's minted as an ASA for the user, basically. So let's call it something like. Yeah, keep in mind there's a certain restrictions on these fields, right? Because all of that is going to be persisted on chain. I'll pick Algorand for an ASA. If you want a custom ASA to be assigned, this drop down only shows the stuff you have opted in, basically. So if you don't see it there, make sure you have an asset opted in before being able to select it as a receiving currency. So obviously, if you have a custom ASA in which you want to receive payments, you can do that as well. You can enforce a duration limit if you want, and for the sake of the demo, let's pick something like a month. You could make it free or set any price you want in the ASA or algo as a base price you picked for receiving the payments. And you can also have a limit on the number of subscribers. I'm not going to enforce a limit, but if you say want to have a more flexible scenario where you would do something like gated access, for example, or ticketed events, right? You can set number of subscriptions that could be sold. So say 1 month, is it paid or free? And you can drag and drop an image, for example, representing your logo, your brand. And obviously, there's a lot more storage on chain within these contracts, and all of them are updatable. So you have an ability to get the latest updates into your version of the contract. If we are releasing something new, basically, which for people using NFTs, for example, could be already a familiar experience, right, where you are able to integrate new features into an existing instance of the contract. So that implies that you won't have to spend more money if you already paid for a single deployment on a particular version. You essentially get a support for, n future iterations for as long as we have the fundamental structure of the contracts unchanged. So we picked month. Let's continue. Since I'm using testnet, this is basically, there's some work in progress going on the feature that I'm not going to mention just yet. This is something we will be releasing really soon, but that's why you see the image basically not being rendered because there's some work in progress on the proxy right now. And yeah, so as you can see, the price for the testnet right now is actually lowered. So like if you play with it on the testnet, you are not going to spend more than 1 algo essentially on it. So let's deploy this contract, and I believe I did authenticate it with Paris. So just give me a second and sign a transaction. So you will sign a set of transactions that will essentially deploy 2 contracts for you. One of the contracts is deployed only once per basically the first time you use SUBTOPIA. And yeah, so we just deployed it. As you can see, I paid, if this was mainnet, you would pay a rough equivalent of $5 essentially in equivalent in algo, and you essentially get the instructions on the bare minimum usage for the client. So as you can see, you install it through npm or yarn, or you pretty much can use any other package manager you prefer, and say you want to, make a subscription now. So this assumes that it's a code snippet that you can place somewhere within your existing D app, and all you need for the existing iteration is essentially to point it to the ID of the product. There's a few references that you also need to specify. You need to tell, whether it's on mainnet, whether it's on testnet, or some custom network. For the sake of the demo, I have it hard-coded for the testnet on the block website that I'm about to show. And yeah, and the registry, you can also switch between the registries. Right now, there's only 2 official registries, one existing on the testnet that I'm using here and on the mainnet, basically. So with that, you just went through 4 steps and you've deployed your own subscription management infrastructure. So now if we go to the manage page, you will also notice that there is some metadata fields here called locker. So locker, the notion of a locker is basically, you can think of it as an escrow. So it's a temporary escrow. Well, not temporary, it actually lives for as long as you use SUBTOPIA, and it serves as an escrow that receives all of the payments from the people who are subscribing to your platform. So if they subscribe through a particular contract that you've already integrated, this is in the existing state, this is your main dashboard to basically manage payments that you receive in algo. So basically, right now we deployed it already. I showed you the manage portal. I showed you the experience around just deploying a new contract. Here's some of the additional things that you can get out of the box with each of these infrastructure contracts, or we can call them product contracts, is the discounts. So you can also basically create different types of discounts if you want to be applied on this price. Discounts are stored on chain as well, so you can pick a fixed or percentage-based discount and specify an expiration for 10 days, for example. Additionally, you can reinvoke the instructions for how to integrate it with the JS SDK. You can transfer your subscription to a new owner. You can disable it if you want, and this is a part of the life cycle of the contract, so you can't actually delete it if you already have active customers. And this is to prevent potential people, scamming and deploying something that would try to somehow, gain leverage on their customers or their subscribers. So if you want to delete your contract, you would have to basically wait until all your existing subscriptions are expired, or if they canceled it out, before you can delete the whole instance, basically. And the last thing I would mention is also the subscription portal. That's basically the page that you can also redirect your users to, and that page is a standalone portal that you can manage. As a user, basically, you can log in on that portal, and if you have access to an already existing subscription, you can do different operations on that. You can also send the vanity token representing you owning an active subscription to your wallet. You can transfer the ownership as well. So if you want to, send access to someone else, you could do that as well. there's some very exciting features that we will be adding that will also allow you to do things like putting the subscription on option, obviously with a certain percentage being offloaded to the creator of it, and things like allowing you to borrow the subscription to your friend, for example, if he wants to use certain features on some platform that rely on SUBTOPIA. And so now imagine I was a developer who had my blog post app, right? Going back to this application demo here. This is unchanged state of that Mint basically project that I took from GitHub. So now I'm going to show you a slightly revamped option that you can see here. And it's using a fairly simple, so instead of like a content management system, they actually use Notion. If there's people available with like familiar with Notion, it's essentially allowing you to, it's a software platform that deals with anything that is around note-taking or organizing data in a convenient format, or basically a collaborative sort of content management platform in some sense as well, but it's a lot more flexible, and they have a very interesting angle on how they provide their features, basically. So what this demo is using is a free public Notion page that isn't exposed to the end user. This data is actually coming from Notion. So as you can see here, I have an example Notion that I've copied from that starter blog application. So let me just showcase a quick scenario when you're adding a new blog post. So I'm just gonna duplicate this particular row, and let's rename this to something, welcome to blog page starter 2. And temporarily, I'm going to assign the tier here. And notice the row tier, and this is basically a scenario for a very easy way to essentially control whether you want to get a paid access or if you want to provide this particular post to your end user for free. And once again, not to be confused, this is not part of the SUBTOPIA, right? I'm showcasing an example blog application into which we've integrated SUBTOPIA, basically. So this is just how that particular demo worked. So if we go back, you just noticed I've added the second page. If we go back to the hosted app, it should essentially pull the information from the very latest state that we've just updated. And yeah, okay, so let me just go from the beginning. So what you can notice in terms of the changes that you can currently see is it's almost the same UI. All I've changed is I've added a notion of a wallet, so you can authenticate on the blog post. And if a blog post is basically free, you will see that it's free. And if it's paid, you will see a little label that says paid. Clicking on that will essentially either give you access or it won't give you access, depending on whether your wallet is subscribed or not. So let's authenticate with a different wallet that we can assume as a user who is, for example, reading your personal blog post. All right, so, and yeah, I think for this particular demo, I've already had like a test that I performed just right before it, so that's why it displayed that I've already had a subscription. But let me open up the code base, basically, which you will be able to access soon after the call ends, and we will basically have some additional improvements there, so you can fork it and you can replicate the whole application that you're seeing here. But the main thing is that you need to essentially establish is that you need to instantiate the client, and this is the product ID that you can put into a blockchain explorer on Algorand, and you can see the information of the app that you've just deployed on chain. And in case of what we've just deployed, basically, if we go to the testnet, this is our application ID, and you saw that this application ID is actually pre-filled for you by the embed widget here. So if we are to change this particular product ID, this is all you need to do in case of, obviously, this is already pre-integrated code, but the only thing that you need to worry about is the instantiation of the client. And we do have a fairly good integration with use wallet as well. So if you use wallet from TXN Lab, the integration with the signer that you're passing in order to perform the signing of the transactions that will then essentially interact with the SUBTOPIA contract that you've just deployed are extremely easy, essentially, and there's a lot of information and details available in the documentation. For the sake of time on the demo, I'm just trying to tap on certain scenarios in this case. So all I did here is basically just update it to a different product that I've had deployed just now, and it can actually rerun this locally as well, because it might be a bit faster to showcase it that way. Otherwise, we would need to do a redeployment. Yeah, just give it a few seconds. I'm basically rerunning it locally to showcase the integration option. So as you can see, that second page we've added here just popped up here. Basically, this is again coming from Notion that you can edit very easily. It has an integrated Markdown manager. You can pretty much have a pretty sophisticated blog post written without writing any code directly on Notion, and it just automatically syncs up with your blog post, right? But notice that one of the tiers is paid, the other one is free. So the paid tier by default in the modified application that we have here will ask you to essentially purchase the subscription, and the free, anyone can access it for free. You don't need to actually purchase anything. So once again, I'm logging in with a different wallet now, I'm really sorry for the hiccup here. I have like 60 something wallets here, and probably should have named them prior to the demo. Okay, so let's see. We've just logged in. As you can see, it says we are not subscribed. And if we try to open a free blog post, it's going to essentially sorry, it's a bit slow on the screen sharing. Okay, so as you can see, yeah, a paid blog post is basically asking you to subscribe. Click on the subscribe. And that is now using the SUBTOPIA JS SDK to issue a call to perform the subscription to this particular product. And in this case, we could say this product is a blog application or like blog post that someone forked and hosted. And he wants to get paid for access to certain pages or certain posts he has. So I'm going to sign the transaction now. And as you can see, this subscription just went through successfully. For the sake of the demo, also let me open up AppFlow to showcase the transaction itself. Obviously, you can use any other explorer like Allo. I'm just not sure if Allo has testnet available yet. And yeah, as you can see, this is the transaction that was just executed, and it essentially creates the asset for you. And the asset is, that's where the unit name comes in, right? This is all customizable, basically.
So I have a question. I know I missed some of it, and I'm sorry, my son, like I say, he's down with something cold. I don't know what it is, so I had to go in there and get him back to sleep. But from what I've watched you set up here, from our perspective, right, the next block, we're going to be creating a website, obviously looking to do a lot of more blog written content. So we would be able to integrate SUBTOPIA on our website if we wanted to create a version of our blogs that was either free and you could subscribe to and get notifications, or even if it was, we wanted to have a paywall and people would be able to support the channel's growth through that by and using their algo and paying in algo or Coop or any other crypto.
Pretty much, yep.
That's awesome.